Welcome to the One Bloody Take Movie Podcast, where we go back in time several decades to browse the aisles of your local video store. I'm Paul.
And I'm Russ.
And today we're renting the 1979 movie Phantasm. So get your popcorn and snow caps ready while we give you our bloody take. Phantasm. So the director of this movie is Don Corricelli. I apologize for the pronunciation. He is not a big time director, but I will give him more credit for Bubba Hotep than I will for this. I will always give somebody a thumbs up for, he wanted to make this movie, so he found the money and he found the cameras and he did the editing. I'm not sure if he did the soundtrack or not, but the original score of this movie is one of my favorites of the horror genre. It's kind of simple, but it does a couple things in there that I really enjoyed.
And there's a note too that gets played constantly. It's just a like sound.
Yeah.
And it's just, you might be not familiar with it because you only know one of their songs. But Faith No More has a song called Motherfucker, and it's the same note. So every time I was hearing that, the rest of the song started playing in my head and happened throughout the entire movie.
So we're just gonna do this whole thing in an adversarial position. Okay, that's fine. Because of the lack of funding and everything, most of this movie it does not feature what you would call actors, and it shows. But again, I don't knock anybody who sees their dream through to the end. Now, as far as that dream is concerned, that's a different discussion altogether. I watched
go ahead.
I watched the trailer. The trailer threw me off because it said it was from Bad Robot, and I know that is what's his name's company?
J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
But then I realized it was him responsible for the 4K restoration of it. Other than that, the commercial, the trailer is what I remembered it being, and it is good enough to draw me in, and the cover is good enough to draw me in. The media for the movie works for me.
Yes. Yeah. If I see this cover, it reminds me very much of like a Choose Your Own Adventure cover. So that's got me there. And I want to know what all of that is about. With the tall man, played by Angus Scrim, I met him at a HorrorCon one time. And it says he's 6'4", but he presents much taller. He was very proper. And I was shocked to find out he's not English. Like, that's not his real name. He was born in Kansas City. But I mean, like, was he stolen from the United Kingdom and claims, his parents say, oh no, you were born in Kansas City. His real name is Lawrence Rory Guy.
Yeah, Larry Guy.
So, yeah, I get why he made the change for the screen name and all. But it was an experience just to be in his presence.
He had a sort of aura about him.
Yes, very much so.
I dig it, and we might as well go with this. So the movie is weird things are happening in Morningside Mortuary. People are dying. Bodies are missing and strange creatures are being spotted. It's up to a local teen, his brother, and their friend to fight the tall man who is behind it all. Here's the thing. You put this movie on the list for this week, and I was excited. I want to say I've probably seen this movie 50 or 60 times.
Easy.
I tried to reel myself back to when might have been the first time I saw it, just to see if there was like a nostalgia thing attached to it. But I don't think I saw this movie till like the early 90s. Like, I was late in on this one. So it's not like I remember when I was 6 and I snuck in my parents' room and you know what I mean? And like it adds that extra bit to it. So that wasn't there. So when I started writing my little note sheet, and my note sheet is not nearly as intricate as yours, but I take little jotting things. I jot down I assume that this paper looks like the inside of my brain, which is just things thrown at it in all directions that just hopefully some of them will stick. And I don't get to half the stuff on my notes, but I started my notes with sort of, I want to do a treatise on why isn't Tall Man in the pantheon with Freddy and Jason and Michael, because as per my memories of him, he was a very imposing figure.
Yes.
He was a very good prototypical horror movie lead type of creature, and I didn't know, why doesn't he get his just desserts? I'd venture to guess that if you went somewhere outside of specifically horror loving people, name your top 10 horror movies, Phantasm would never come up. And if you brought up Phantasm, most of the room would just say, I've never heard of that one. What is that one?
Well, I mean, I put no thought into this, but my first reaction to what you've said is timing. This movie came out in 79. I think it wasn't First Friday. That was 79, or was it 80? Maybe I'm a year off. But I'm pretty sure it was late 70s. And then after that, they keep going. And what, Nightmare is, I think, 84?
Yeah, 83 or 84, okay. Yeah.
Right. And after that, they keep going. I don't think we get the sequel until 88. So we're already kind of establishing the who's who in horror, I guess, as far as your franchises are concerned. And he's just considered a one-off by the time that happens. We have Leatherface, we have Freddy, we have Jason, we have Michael Myers. All of these movies already have multiple, films attached to them where he's just a one and done. And I would argue that while I still will enjoy watching them, the movies that come next are not on the same level. And I honestly believe I if I remember correctly, I saw the third one first. I remember renting the third one from this video store that was kind of around the corner from us, that later burned down. I think they burned it down for to try to claim it, but it burned. The building burned. And then I think after I saw the third one, I went back and watched the first two. Well, the second one isn't available streaming anywhere. And even the copy I have, it turns out is a bootleg. So I think I got that at a HorrorCon. So I don't know why the second one isn't commercially available. Maybe it's on DVD now. I didn't check, but I know it wasn't on any of the streaming services. And the fact that I have a bootleg of it means that when I bought it, I couldn't purchase it on the, as a regular release, or I would have got the proper one. So that would be my guess. It's just the timing of events, because I agree with you. Like, it's almost like the Simpson theory. Like, Matt Groening wanted the Simpsons to be recognizable by their shadow. If you see the shadow of him against the setting, you're gonna know who he is. Same go for Freddy as well. So yeah, he deserves to be up there in my opinion.
So you're kind of taking the wind out of my sails here, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry.
But I mean, your theory makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street come out, and we're hammered over the head with them over the next 2 decades after that. Fine, that's a good theory. Except that most people will recognize Leatherface. You brought up Leatherface as one of these people. The first movie came out in 74. The second movie didn't come out till 85 or 86.
Yeah.
So the gap didn't hurt him. The gap didn't hurt Leatherface. I think what it comes down to, unfortunately for me, and this is the first time I noticed this movie's terrible. This movie's absolutely terrible. I couldn't, as I watched this movie, as it went on, not initially, but as it went on, I could not remember why I would advocate for this movie, why I would want you to watch this movie. I got nothing. And maybe I got to go back and watch 2 and or 3, and maybe one of those kind of caught me better. But Jesus, this movie, first of all, I think it goes about 43 minutes without any sense of dialogue whatsoever. Like, there's a couple words between people every here and there, and that's about it. Which initially was like, this is kind of cool. It's building up a lot of suspense. If you were in a sort of situation where you were scared and you're being chased, you wouldn't talk that much. So I get that's good. But also, by the same token, you had 41 minutes to explain to me what the fuck is going on in this movie, and you took none of those minutes to do any of that, and I don't appreciate it. The movie starts out with two people having sex in a cemetery, and we'll get back to that. But for the moment, it's two people having sex in a cemetery, and they seem to be enjoying themselves.
It's all downhill from there.
I think it's already downhill immediately, because what happens to the gentleman on bottom is he takes a dagger to the chest and gets killed.
Yeah.
And this lovely looking woman is suddenly a guy. So did the dead guy engage in gay sex without his knowledge, or what happened there?
You see, this scene sent me down a path.
This was your awakening, Russ?
Maybe that's a poor choice of words there. But it got me thinking, because, he's having sex with a woman who turns into a man, and not only a man, but the tall man.
Right.
There's a clear difference. So, there's this movie I never heard of and I've never seen called The Chameleon, with an actress in it I've never heard of or never seen any of her work, Tori Wells.
Oh, sure. It also features, if I had heard of it, I would also know it starred Rocco Siffredi, but that's neither here nor there for either of us.
And when I didn't see that movie, I didn't have this thought.
Except that in this movie, in the movie you're referring to that we haven't seen, I'm speculating here, of course. In the movie, it was always a woman who was a victim of the chameleon. So either it was a woman who wound up having sex with a man unknowingly, or a woman who wound up having sex with a woman unknowingly, which has a lot less taboo on it than a man having sex with a man does. If I had ever seen the movie.
Based on how our society functions, 100% correct.
Right.
That's going to be viewed differently. But when I didn't see that other movie, I didn't have this thought that there was a real chance for comedy to be there, and they failed to do it. Like, if you could transform into anything, why not Homer Simpson? All of us, and you just do it for a second, so the person freaks out, and then you gaslight them into saying it never happened. And so when you have this ability and this is what you do, make it funny.
Greatest gotcha moment in the world. I'm your dad. No, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
I gotta watch that movie. It sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's how this movie kicks off. No explanation, which is fine. Like, right. I don't mind a movie throwing you in head first. That's fine. If at some point we can unwind what we saw.
Yes.
He I guess we're gonna call it shape shifting. I don't know, but he shape shifts like one or two other times in this movie. Ultimately, there is no explanation for who Tall Guy is, what he does, or what his function is. Like, what was he doing? Collecting bodies to go through the portal and shrink them so that they could be his minions. Okay, fine. Why does he need minions? Who is he? What does he do? How was he conjured?
There's a line from Mike that explains that. And we do know more, but only because we have other movies.
Right.
So your line of thinking is correct here. Based on the only movie that we got, there is a lot that isn't properly explained so much. But when Mike enters the Tall Man's world, which I believe is called the Red Planet or the Red World, he basically says he's shrinking them down to basically provide slave labor.
Yeah.
So the goal here is someone from another planet has come to Earth and has found a way to keep a portal or a space bridge open, and they're not sending energon cubes. In this case, they are sending like 3'2" workers, and they need to be the size that they are because of the immense heat and gravity on the planet.
I thought that was why they became the size that they were, but either way, okay.
Yes, right. No, he shrinks them down on Earth, puts them in the barrels,
In the 55-gallon barrels,
and then sends them through.
Okay.
And then once there, they get out of the barrels, and then they go to work.
Okay.
And this is all based on a statement Mike makes after returning from the portal.
Right.
So, I mean, I'll get into that a little later, but Mike seems to have figured out a lot from one vision.
Yeah. What one
right.
quick one,
right.
Again, they spent the whole front end of the movie not speaking to anyone about anything, and then when they finally get here, for him to only say one throwaway line feels like you could have done, even if you just did it visually, you could have done a little more to explain what was happening up to this point, because it really is wildly confusing if you've never seen the movie. Like, if you've never seen the movie before, this is your start, right? We get the guy, he gets killed. Okay, so there's a guy out there killing people, maybe luring them in, whatever it is. He must need them for something. Fine. And then we get to the funeral, which was attended by a lot of people who don't drive, which I thought was weird because there was a bunch of people at the funeral, but there was no cars in the parking lot whatsoever. And I was not clear on this, and I feel like they should have made this a little more clear too. The first guy who gets killed, is he related to our main characters?
No. It just seems that Tommy's the guy who gets killed. Right. Tommy is good friends with both Reggie and Jody. So they call them the trio. Like I think Reggie says something like the trio lost its third partner or something. So they're just friends, or they get along. They all know each other in some way and hang out.
But the person, let me rephrase because I said it wrong and that's my fault. But the person who gets killed in the opening of the movie,
yes,
is well known by at least one of the main characters of the movie, right?
All the main characters of the movie, yes.
All right. So that's gonna come back to something else a little bit later. But I just want to make sure I had that right. That I thought that was his uncle, but either way, they're well aware of each other's existences, and at least I saw Reggie at the funeral. I'm not sure if I saw everybody else, but
Jody was there. Jody didn't want Mike going because he had some nightmares after he went to his parents' funeral. I think the funeral is not the Kickstarter of the nightmares. I think it's the loss of the parents, but
for sure,
that's and something I did not think about until you just said, like, nobody has cars. Jody, I mean, it becomes Reggie's later, but the Barracuda is Jody's.
Yeah.
And later Jody is just riding his bike down the street.
Yep.
Why isn't he riding the car? And I know Mike works on the car later, so you could argue that maybe something's wrong with it, but we're never told that.
No explanation of that. Yeah.
So it is weird. And I believe Jody was 24 when he died. So, like, he should be in his car.
Agreed. Completely agreed. So we get that. That's our opening. We got a dead person that everybody knows. And the names are escaping me at the moment. I apologize for that. But
it's okay.
Mike sees something fishy happen at the end of this funeral. And what he sees is he sees the tall man basically pick the casket up with one hand and put it in the truck, which is absurd and needs to be explained, because either this is the strongest man in the history of the world, or there's something fishy with the contents of that coffin. Now, either way, an empty coffin isn't exactly the lightest box in the world. Just because there's no body in it doesn't mean he should have been able to one-hand that. But him one-handing that freaks Mike out, as it should, and drives him into pursuing what is going on here.
And Mike also catches glimpses, but it wouldn't be enough to really say certainly, yeah, I saw that, kind of one of the rub your eyes moments and it's gone.
Right.
They call them dwarves, lurkers, or gravers. So would it pick your choice? They're used interchangeably. But going back to what you said about the face appearing during the sex scene, proper technique or good storytelling aside, it's so like the next time we see the tall man, we know we're not to trust him. And the next time that
Fair.
we see the tall man is when Jody is wandering the halls of the mausoleum to visit his parents. We don't know he's visiting his parents at the moment. So we already get like, okay, some shit's going on, but why is he being friendly? I do think they do at least a good job of giving us little bits of information that pay off down the line. So I feel like everything they did had a purpose to it, and it wasn't just like, fuck it, go out there and say what you want to say. Throughout the movie, I think they did a decent job with that type of thing. I can't talk. I'm sorry.
No, I
Yeah.
actually
No, like I got a little bit off track, and then I couldn't land it because I forget there was something else I wanted to say and I couldn't remember.
I kind of agree with that, though. I kind of agree with the idea that they weren't wasting space and time in this movie.
Yes.
It was all purposeful and it was all pointed, and there's reasons for it. And if you add them all up, you can come to some level of conclusion. But I just think the concept of the tall man and the story behind him is too intricate for just peekaboo hints as to what he is and what makes him up and what drives him. Like there's so if he's an alien, how did he get here? If he can shapeshift, but he's also the woman in lavender, what was the point in him shapeshifting? Right? So he had already stabbed the dude before he shapeshifted back into tall man for a minute and then came back to the lady in lavender.
Right.
What was he accomplishing post-mortem by slipping in and out of that face, except for us to see it, obviously, as the viewers?
Just for us. That's all.
So then why not have him do that 5 seconds earlier, right? Like before the guy is dead, do it then and freak the guy out and stab him, and then we can all be freaked out together instead of just us and not the dead guy who didn't know any of this happened.
To go little by little here, the purpose of him shapeshifting is to lure Tommy away, just like he tries to lure Jody away.
Right.
So if the tall man's sitting at the bar and says, hey, you want to go make out in the cemetery, you're probably going to pass. So if he's the lady in lavender, you're probably more willing to do that. But I would then question why he chooses to be the lady in lavender the second time to pick up Jody, because at some point someone's going to start to question, hey, the last person this person was seen with was her. And the cause of death for Jody was suicide. Right. So,
which really bugged me, but also I was willing to let it slide, I guess, over a point in time, because he got stabbed in like the lower abdomen.
Yes.
So unless this guy had toured Japan and was carrying out some sort of harikari, who rules it a suicide when you have a stab wound to your lower abdomen?
Yeah, that choice was a little weird, but I get like his goal here is basic. He's a worker factory, so they are killing people and taking the people that die of natural causes and churning them out and sending them back.
Sure. Now,
as far as him being an alien, we don't learn this in this story, but this is the lore. The tall man's original name is Jebediah Morningside, hence Morningside Mortuary. He existed back in the 1800s. We do see that photo of him on the horse and buggy in the antique shop. So we are getting a little bit of the information, but just not an explanation. Jebediah became fascinated with the link between the dead and the living world. And in his research, he found a portal, and this portal opened to the Red Planet. So going through that portal, we're unsure if when Jebediah crossed over and came back, he was just now transformed into an immortal tall man, or something came back posing as Jebediah. It's one or the other. So either he's an alien pretending to be a human that we knew, or he's a human now acting as an alien. Don't know which. But I would start to question if this is the 1800s and this is what, 1978, I think, 77, something like that.
Right.
Or I think he died in 76, so maybe it was 76. It doesn't matter. We're talking about a year. Over the next 170 years, I would question why Jebediah Morningside is still presiding over the Morningside mortuary.
Someone should have that question. And another question. So this means for the last 100 and whatever years, anyone buried at Morningside mortuary is gone, is effectively gone. And at no point in time over that span of time did anyone notice at all. Also seems kind of crazy to me. I'm not saying that people rummage through coffins every day, but it happens every now and again. And and every single one of those coffins is empty. It would strike someone's curiosity. And like you said, geez, I remember when I was 6 years old and we buried my grandmother and we went there and Jebediah was there.
Yeah.
And now I'm 82 and Jebediah is still in charge. Something's not adding up here. I have some questions.
And especially like in part 2, I can't remember the name of the kid. But there's a kid whose dad dies, and the kid doesn't want to leave the cemetery because they haven't covered up the plot yet. So he's sitting there and waiting. And when he does this, they come out and steal the body in, I don't want to say daylight, but at night. So they're just doing shit out in the open at that point because they don't care. And then I feel like the rest of the movie is, what if Kevin McAllister was in a horror movie? Because that's what winds up happening with this kid, basically. So they're just stealing the bodies, and it's almost in the future they just kind of wipe out towns, and nobody questions it. You just move on like it's just part of life. Like at some point, everyone in this town will die, with the exception of a few, and we'll all go here and live now, type of thing, which this one doesn't really get into. They seem to just be more like random deaths while most of the town is still alive.
But they're not random, right? Like,
no, but if you live in that town, that's more of your feeling. You don't necessarily feel like there's a killer out there. You just think you live with the group of the unluckiest people there is, would be my take.
No, I mean, I understand, but also in the span of about 5 years, Mike's parents die, and then the guy in the funeral, the guy in the cemetery dies. Like there's these series of bad things that just seems to be happening to his family.
Right.
They're
two years apart.
So internally, the randomness isn't really there. To an external observer, you would just be like, bad luck. Yeah, yes. You're right. You're right on that. But it's also a small town, and that goes both ways, right? Small town, just random stuff is generally not just random stuff when it becomes cumulative.
Right.
So anyway, we have the lore kind of down pat. He's here to collect bodies and send them back, shrink them and send them back to be slaves somewhere else and power something else. I would like to step back to one thing real quick in case we don't hit on it again. The scene where Mike sees the picture of Tall Man from the 1800s. That's one of the coolest scenes I've ever seen.
Yes.
Especially considering when they filmed this and what would have needed to be done in order to execute that. That's a pretty awesome scene. And hats off to whoever thought that up and executed that, because that was perfection. Yeah.
Especially at like you said, at that time, considering how they were making this movie, this was great.
Yeah, this was amazing.
And we see similar things like this in Pennywise, or in It later, where you're watching the picture and the picture comes alive, or like Mr. Boogeyman, Mr. Boogedy.
Right.
The same thing happens there. It's a still picture, and then he starts moving. So this technique is used many other times in other movies. It's just this was 1979, so it's a lot more impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and the movie carries on from here, but basically, we'll I'll wrap up my thoughts on it. It was a lot better the other 55 to 60 times I watched it than it was this time, and I don't know, I don't exactly know what changed, but something really changed this time.
I still absolutely love it.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
Absolutely. But you're making valid points. I fully understand why you would feel that way. And I think this happens a lot too, is when we sit down and look for what to talk about in a movie, sometimes like the biggest disappointment for me when doing this was Shocker. But that, I had such a strong connection with that movie when I was growing up, thought it was like the greatest thing ever. And then I watched it, I'm like, what is this piece of shit? So there is a feeling where there are movies in your past that you love so much, and then when you watch them when you're older, they don't hit the same way. Or if we're looking for reasons not to like them, we start to see them. Which
that first hurdle I cleared, because I was like, okay, did I just like this movie the last 58 times because of a nostalgia hit?
Yeah.
And no, that's not really it, because I didn't watch it under any special circumstances. I was already, old enough that just watching a movie wouldn't be the experience enough to go, I want to reminisce. It just simply a movie that I loved, like absolutely loved. And I don't necessarily go into these movies looking to hate them when we watch them. I expect to hate them most of the time because we're watching a very particular subgenre of these movies. But this was always going to be, oh, good, I get to watch Phantasm again. I love this movie. I always loved this movie. I don't know why the fuck I like this movie at all.
No, I get it. I do. And there's things I'm going to talk about a little bit later, which in any other movie, I'd be blowing a fuse. So, but I just feel like it works in this particular movie. So if there are techniques or methods of storytelling that in any other movie, I'd be saying, what the fuck are they doing? I just sort of give it a pass here because I don't feel the same way about it. So I fully am on board with what you're saying. It's just, I still like it. So
that's fair. That's completely fair.
But the one thing at the beginning of the movie, and I actually forgot about the one scene. I might have watched this maybe 3-4 months ago just to watch it. So that was probably the last time I saw it. But when there are so many good visuals in this movie, shot compositions, the use of shadows, what's in focus and what's out of focus. And I think a lot of the negative space creates this uncomfortableness that anything can be lurking in it. I'm getting a little off topic. What I'm saying here is just, I like the movie visually. If they didn't say anything at all, I'm still enjoying what I'm seeing. And especially at the beginning when Jody is in the mausoleum and he's standing in the hallway. And it just felt very Dune-like to me. It felt like if I didn't know what I was watching and didn't recognize the character, and I only got to like see it for like 3 seconds before I couldn't look at it anymore, and you said, guess what movie that is? There's a strong chance I might say Dune. And Dune is a heavy influence in this movie. The most obvious one of all is when Mike goes to see the fortune teller and she says, put your hand in this black box, and all he experiences pain. And the lesson there is fear is the killer. Don't fear and you'll be fine. But the other thing that's maybe very obvious if you see it, but it's not the focal point of the scene, is the bar is called Dune's Cantina.
Right.
So, yeah, like, it's just, there's a feeling of Dune in it. There's things taken from Dune, both from the actual movie and the name. So, there might be other things in it that I just didn't catch. But that is what I picked up on.
And I think all of that is what elevates this to being an A level movie and not a B level movie. The rotoscope scene that we talked about with the old picture, the scene of Tall Man standing next to the ice cream guy when he opens it and all the vapor comes out of the freezer and he's just kind of just breathing it all. Like there's all these like perfectly well shot, well executed, and they're done in such a way, some of them, that like you could see how sometimes in these movies they miss the mark with those sort of scenes, because you're like, well, everybody else looking around would have seen this happen. Why did they not notice this? But what they do, like again, like him breathing in the evaporation, it's not super weird and creepy looking. It's not evil looking. To a stranger, it would just be, oh, there's a guy sniffing ice cream. Like that's not that weird. Only Mike feels that it's an evil thing because he already has this other context to it. And and that's important when you're filming, because you don't want, no other townsfolk saw this guy lick a bloody knife and then put it back in his pocket while he was standing there.
And to the point you made, Mike feels this is an evil thing. There's some stuff I want to talk about that later, where a lot of this, I believe, is just Mike's perception. But that scene in particular, I feel like the coldness that's coming out, it's more than just the coldness. But this is only because I know what happens in the other movies. I almost feel like the Tall Man is taking in the essence of what is beyond the coldness, and it's Mike. That feeling that he's getting,
like he can, like an animal, he can smell his prey. Yes. Okay.
And because Mike has abilities that the Tall Man desires, so it's him noticing that. Now, if this was a stand-up, one alone movie, never anything else, I don't know if I would come to this conclusion, because it does look like he is enjoying the cold air. And that in itself would be, unless it's, 98 degrees in August, how many people are going to stop and breathe that in like that and take the joy in doing so? I think it's more because there is eye contact made through it first with Mike. Mike is then paralyzed in fear, and then we see it. I do believe it is him realizing the prize that is across the street.
Okay, I like that. I do. I 100%. I agree with you that when he looks through the vapor, he is acknowledging Mike standing there, and there is a bit of a taunting happening there. 100%. As far as him sniffing him like he's his prey, okay, I can certainly see where you would come to that conclusion. Absolutely. But in either case, he's still not doing anything so outlandish so as to call attention to himself by others who aren't in this little dance that him and Mike are up to.
You're not calling the cops if you see it. If you're with a child, you might grip them a little tighter and say, let's walk this way.
Yeah.
But it's nothing so alarming that it's going to alter the course of your day.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And I do love that prior to that, Mike is checking the payphones for coins left behind.
Of course.
Just such a random thing, but it's what like a 13-year-old would do as they walk down the street.
100%.
Yeah.
The also the ice cream man, and obviously not in any kind of on purpose way based on how time works, the ice cream man did also look a bit like Clint Howard as the ice cream man, which kept irking me a little bit.
I wondered, it was like, did they get this idea from that? Was it like, well, what if the ice cream guy was the bad guy? And I just want to say, when you look like Reggie, there's very few things I think that you can do in life as a profession. This is one of them. And the other, I would think, would be like selling cigars. Because when someone, and this is not a knock, this is, I'm not making fun of this at all. It's just like, it's like you if this is who you are, your calling is limited and filled with fate.
He's got like a particular character build.
Yes, and that you were just going to gravitate towards that. Now, it's the balding, and I'm bald. I used to have very long hair, but I had a full head of hair at the time.
Right.
I would not do that now, just because one, I wouldn't want to be bothered with the upkeep, and two, I don't think I have the look for it, and three, if I did, I wouldn't be able to crawl under cars without getting my ponytail caught in it. And then it would have to be cut off.
Yeah, because what's the point?
Yeah, Ice Cream Man is the perfect profession for this gentleman.
When you look like that, you have to find a job where you are obligated to social interaction. Otherwise, you'll never have any social interaction.
Yes. Yeah, and with the actor that played Reggie, he recently passed earlier this year.
Yeah.
I know he was sick for a little while. So, unfortunately, his time had come.
His time has come. Hopefully he wasn't shrunk down and sent to the Red Planet.
No.
So throughout this movie, there at least through the first half of the movie, there's a bit of a subplot where Mike is going to leave town. Mike's planning to leave town.
Jody.
Oh, sorry, Jody. You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jody is planning to leave town and leave Mike behind. It seems like a very weird setup for anything.
Yeah.
Mike and Jody's parents are dead, and I understand like there's a lot of burden involved with raising a kid and all that, but like if you're going to leave town and if you're going to leave Mike behind, you certainly don't do it in the middle of the night, Baltimore Colts style. Like you have to have a discussion with him. Like, listen, I can't handle this. I have no idea what to do here, but I gotta go. Even you still look shitty,
right.
but you can't have a plan of like, all right, and I'm gonna give Mike 2 scoops of ice cream and he's gonna fall into one of those sugar comas, and by the time he wakes up, I'll be in Colorado. Like that can't be the plan. Because he doesn't seem like a complete asshole, like at all as a character. So it would seem weirdly out of character and out of humanity to just like bounce on your 14-year-old brother.
Right, because Reggie seems like a really good dude.
He does.
Yeah. And so if Reggie is friends with Jody can't be an awful person.
Right.
So by association, Jody at least would have redeeming qualities. And I get that Jody is also experiencing grief. It's only been 2 years. But Jody is 24. Mike is 13. So Jody has a little bit more responsibility here now to step up and at the very least, be understanding and know that if you say my kid brother follows me around wherever I go, if you're talking shit about him and he follows you around, maybe you don't loudly talk shit about him so he knows what you're doing.
Right.
And just like, I don't let him around funerals because he had nightmares for weeks after his parents died. The funeral is not the causation of the nightmare. His parents' deaths are the causation.
That's going to be the issue nightmare. More than anything else.
Yes. Yeah. And the fact that you don't understand that is wild. So it just seemed like he had no interest. It's Tom Glavine going to the Mets and going, I'm not helping anyone learn how to pitch. So it's you're there as a mentor, be one. And he just chose not to be. He's going to leave him with his aunt.
Yeah. Which.
Yeah.
I got my feelings. Also, not for nothing, and it happens a little later in the movie, but there's a point in time where Reggie goes to the cantina during the day, and the way he parks his car really bothered me.
Jody.
Okay, yeah. No, yeah. Reggie.
No, Jody.
Reggie's the brother, right?
No, Jody.
I keep mixing up the ice cream man.
Yes, Reggie's the ice cream man. Jody's the brother. The older brother. Mike's the little brother.
Yeah. Jody drives to the cantina and like parks like next to it, and it just really bothered me for some reason.
I wrote somewhere, he pulls up to that cantina like every fucking asshole I see approaching a stop sign in a parking lot. especially Centerton Square, everyone I see tries to go 50 miles an hour up to the stop sign just to stop. Why? Why are you driving like that? It doesn't matter. You still have to stop. So every time I'm going down the main strip there, it feels like every car is going to fly out and hit me. And that he approaches the cantina with a speed like he is not going to stop. And yes, why is he parking right in front of it?
He parked like by the side door.
Yes, if that is a parking spot, then the other people inside the cantina would have already taken it.
All right, so we got that out of the way.
Yeah.
So let's go with what happens in the movie for a little bit, and then we'll talk about the body bags. So Mike saw what he saw, and Mike goes to seek the assistance of a psychic to see if they can, help with his visions, I guess we'll call them.
Right. Oh, and he also wants to know if Jody's going to leave.
Right. He wants to know if Jody's going to leave. Mm-hmm. Is Jody going to leave, and are there ghosts haunting the Morningside mortuary? Are two excellent, and both steeped in reality type questions that I like to ask of my psychic every now and again. So he learns a little lesson. The psychic wants him to put his hand in the box. You were talking about this before, and the box kind of clamps down on him and starts hurting him. And we're taught, as Mike is taught, that the problem is not the box. The problem is your fear. And once you can beat your fear, you can beat anything.
Right.
So this lesson is learned in such a way so as to tell us that it'll come up later, but it is a pretty well done scene.
And the box that is mentioned appears. It just materializes on the table. And then when Mike pays her, he puts the money on the box, and the box disappears.
Yeah.
The same way.
Yep.
So psychic or not, I know you got a lot of parlor tricks and things up your sleeve. No, nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that without smoke and mirrors, and there's no smoke and mirrors. So it's telling me one of three things. This woman is actually magical. We are living in a different type of reality in this movie than we are here, where this type of stuff is possible, therefore paving the way for other impossibilities later in the movie, or this scene is not real.
All right.
So one of those three things is what took place here.
3 is the only one that works for me, and the reason being that Mike is specifically there partially to ask about specters and ghosts and aliens and supernatural things. So for him to be in a room where a box manifests and then disappears would be all the confirmation in the world that there is some sort of other spooky shit going on this planet. And he kind of just leaves still unsure. So it could not have been real, and Mike witnessed it and go, oh, this is not unusual, and then move on out of the room and pay his $20 or whatever it was.
Yeah, and we've said before, don't believe in this type of thing, but if I see that shit, I know what's real and what's not real, and that would freak me out because there's no possible way that could have happened unless we're not playing on the same level here.
I think I addressed that somewhere in my notes, but like, as a human, you have to have sort of a threshold for where you're willing to abandon your beliefs, right?
Right.
Like, okay, I think there's ghosts. Okay, I don't think there's ghosts. Okay, yesterday a box fell off the shelf and no one was in the room. All right, that type of thing happens. Sometimes the wind, whatever, a truck drove by. Okay, the other day, a box floated in the middle of the room, spun 360, then landed again, and then a man got out of it and walked out of the room. Do you have video of this? I do. Here it is. all right, now we have to start considering whether or not this is a reality. Like, there's got to be this threshold where you break away from whatever it is you hold firm to. And Mike was already on the fence about what was real and what wasn't real. So for him to witness this and not think it's real and not think it's all part of the same thing and like run out of there like a freak, like a screaming like a banshee, it couldn't have been real. Yeah. It had to be a dream.
Yeah, because
or there was some kind of dope in the box and he just got a hit of like a heroin that just made him slink out relaxed.
There's a line in a Modest Mouse song that I think is applicable to these types of situations. Doing the cockroach. They say, I was in heaven, I was in hell, believe in neither, but I fear them as well. So that is kind of my viewpoint on this. Like, I don't believe in this, but in the right situation, I am going to be fearful of what I see if what I see is not based in reality.
Sure. So Mike goes home after visiting the psychic, and he has another nightmare where the tall man is involved. And these scenes are so well filmed. And I think I remember a poster for the movie that was just
the
tall man standing over his bed.
That was using the poster
with a little bit of light behind it and stuff like that. And it's a great scene. It furthers Mike's paranoia. But again, it's another thing that happens that even when Mike reports it back to his brother, it's not going to move the needle for him. Like, you're just freaking out because mom and dad are dead, you wuss. But in the meantime, in an effort to I don't know, start living his normal life some more, his brother goes to the bar and picks up the lady in lavender and takes her to the cemetery to have sex with her. Now,
yes,
I got a couple questions here, but basically let's go to the one that's the most obvious to me. So our first bag, stabbed, and presumably, if the cops were there to show up and rule it a suicide, they have to have found the body in the first place. And I think they mentioned that, like, they found it in the mortuary. Like, they didn't find it in the field. Like, someone had moved it or whatever, but they don't suggest that someone moved the body. But they found it, let's call it, on the grounds of the funeral home.
I assumed the body was moved. Not exactly. So I'm agreeing with what you're saying.
Yeah, so be it. So either it was found where he was stabbed, so the cops could look into it and decide it was a suicide, or he was moved into the mortuary. Either way, the body was found on the funeral parlor grounds. I think that's the last place I would take a person weeks after my good friend got stabbed in the stomach and killed, because I can't possibly believe it was a suicide. But even if I did, I don't think I could go back to that funeral home anytime soon and not, be thinking about my dead friend. This was a horrible decision. And it made zero sense to me. Like, why would you go right back there? Of all the places,
right?
You got your car, you have whatever else you have in the rest of the town, but to go back to this specific plot of land where you just lost your friend within the last month, batshit. Absolutely batshit to me.
I think that, and yes, like, the logic that Jody is using is illogical, but it has to be there for things to play out the way they did. So if Mike is going to be the one that saves Jody, so if we think, oh no, Jody's going to die too, we know Mike is following him around. Mike is watching. Mike hears the grunting noises, and then he sees a lurker charge at him, and then he just runs through the cemetery screaming. And then for some reason, Jody has her underwear in his mouth. I get that's how he took it off. But no, he continues to keep it there while talking. That was the for some reason part. Like, because I feel like when you open your mouth, they would just fall. It's not the American flag, and it can't touch the ground.
Right.
They can hit the ground and still be fine. So, yeah, I think we're back at the cemetery to mess with us. and then provide a reason for Mike to stop that from happening.
Okay.
Because it's not needed.
No.
Like we don't need to have this. Mike is already Mike is, already telling Jody certain things, so it's not 100% necessary for this scene, other than just to get us to think, oh, Jody could die here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I just don't picture Jody taking her back to the cemetery. That's all I'm saying.
Even here's the thing. I don't care who did or didn't just die there. Why? When you have a car, the seats in the car may be cramped, but there's still springs and cushion. So do you want springs and cushion or hard stone to lay on?
Well, there was that. And then my other thought was, if I were to set up a camera at the local cemetery by here, and let it run for a year, I'll bet I could probably catch one or two people, one or two couples going in there and having sex over the course of a year. In this town, we're only about a 4-week span from, this is just where people go. Like, this is the hot makeout spot, is right here on top of these dead boxes.
Yeah, they don't have a drive-in, so
Also, not for nothing, but Jody's parents are dead. He's got a whole house that he could just go to and be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, he literally can go anywhere. You might as well just take her out back. You don't even have to walk to the cemetery.
Right.
Just go behind the dumpster. Because, cleanliness and comfort doesn't seem to matter here.
No one cares.
So, yeah.
This is a pre-COVID era, pre-germ era movie.
Yeah.
So Mike's fears are escalating, and Jody's are not. Even after this little experience, he's a little shaken by this, but it's still not enough. And this moves us forward again to are we at the point now where Mike is working on the Barracuda, where Mike's under the car working on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this bothered me too. Mike is working on the car, and whatever's tormenting him is in the garage, and it starts jostling the car on the jack. And Mike, all 19 pounds of Mike, and I point that out for a reason, all 19 pounds of Mike turns on his side to make himself as tall as you could possibly be under a car while it's on its way, crashing presumably to the ground. Instead of laying flat on his back and hoping for the best, he's intending to rehoist the car with his shoulder, I suppose. This kid's not smart.
Yeah. I was also confused as to how he was able to hit Jody in the toe with the hammer and get that leverage. Yeah, because how much can you actually get your hand up? What, like 3-5 inches?
Right.
If you're under there,
you have no room for momentum.
Yeah. So if anything, you're just gonna be like, dude, why'd you do that?
Right. Instead, you would have thought that Jody lost the toe.
Yeah.
And
even then, Jody's reaction to knowing his brother is under the car is quite underwhelming. He might have even went, great, now I don't have to drop him off at my aunt's. Like,
well, he didn't see the car fall, right?
I don't think so.
Right.
I think he was just in there.
So hold on. So he comes in after the car has fallen on Mike. So if you walked into the garage and the car was there in its normal car position, you wouldn't assume that there was someone under there because the car collapsed. At most, you would assume that there was someone under there because they were hiding, looking to hit your toe with a ball-peen hammer as a prank.
Well, yeah, I guess, but you could see the jack was on the floor if you did see that.
Yeah.
But I would instantly, after that happened, be like, oh my, are you okay?
Are you okay? Why are you under the car without it being jacked up?
Yeah.
No, I get it. Jody's not the most caring of brothers.
No.
So we get into a bunch of back and forth again, and then Mike finally confronts the tall man and manages to cut off one of his fingers. And
Yes.
and we can see by everything that's happening that the fingers themselves aren't dead, I guess is the way we would say that. Like, they have their own autonomy. So he catches one of them and puts it in a little filing box and padlocks it shut. And it morphs into a bug of some sort.
Yes.
I don't understand that.
This is also, do we want to just go based on what we know in this movie, or do we want to expand to what happens in others? Essentially, you can't kill the tall man. You might be able to stop him, immobilize him, destroy him. He's essentially T2. So his body is going to come back together. And it's unclear sometimes if just a new clone, is it Rick? Is it just another Rick coming through the portal? Or is it the same tall man, but all repair? When the tall man is injured and pieces him fall off, they still work on their own. And then they do turn to insects and return to him. So that's kind of like if in one of the other movies he's cut in the head and like this like caterpillar pincher bug comes out or something, like something pops out of his head. So when he is wounded, his wounds turn to insects or creatures. And then he becomes whole again if he's capable of doing so. So my guess is that the fly would have flown back to him and then been his finger again.
And it reattached itself?
Yes.
Okay.
But going based on what we just see in this movie, we do not know that.
Right. But what we do know is that this sequence of events is enough to convince Jody that we have a real problem, as Mike has been explaining the whole time. And going back to what we were saying before about having a human having a threshold for when they will continue to hold on to their beliefs versus when they're willing to cut them short, I will give him credit, because there are plenty of horror movies where this still would not be enough to turn a person into a soldier on your side.
Yeah. There's got to be an explanation for this.
Yeah. And Jody's ready to go. Jody's like, get all the guns, get all the bullets, let's go.
Jody reacts to it like with all the calmness of an Owen Wilson's Wild. Like, just like, oh yeah, as it turned out, you were telling me the truth.
Wow.
So, yeah, if you put yourself in Jody's shoes, and okay, your brother's telling you these insane stories about people, bodies and dwarves and the tall man and all this stuff, and now you get evidence. I don't care how many times you've heard that story, your reaction should still be batshit insane, because everything you've known in your life is not true.
Right.
Yeah, there are completely different rules to play by.
Right. We've put a full-on dent into reality, and he's just basically like, yeah, I guess you were telling the truth the whole time.
Let's get the guns.
Sorry for grounding you. Let's get the shotgun and the pistol. Yeah, because this looks like it could be bad.
The sooner we go take care of this, the sooner I can kick your ass out of here, and the sooner I'll be happy. So let's just do this.
There's no evidence of tall man in California, so if we can just get you on your way, that would be great. So let's talk about the deaths in this movie. Some of them are go ahead, sorry.
Before we get to that, I did want to just mention some things as like, if we're viewing this movie as a standalone movie, is this the perception of what happened in this movie?
All right, floor is yours.
I think a lot of this is just in the title. The movie is telling us what we're about to see before we even see it. Phantasm. According to Webster's dictionary, the definition of wedding is removing the weeds from one's garden. The other definition that they have is phantasm, which is a product of fantasy, such as a delusive appearance, which is an illusion, a ghost, a specter, a figment of the imagination, or a mental representation of a real object. So, based on how this movie ends, after we seem to have the victory of killing the tall man, Reggie is now alive and sitting with Mike, and Reggie just goes, "Oh yeah, your brother died in that automobile accident." Reggie's fully unaware of any of the events that happened because he's like, "No, Mike, it's not that tall man that you're talking about. He died in a car accident." So everything we've seen to this point either did not happen or this is not happening. It can't be both. Unless the tall man has the ability to somehow fog everyone's mind so they can't remember what's taking place. So if we kind of go into this a little bit deeper, we know that Mike is experiencing trauma. His parents just died. We know that he's having nightmares. And this is the manifestation of his fears, which then points us back to that box, which is, the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. And the tall man is just the face of Mike's grief and trying to come to terms with death. And it's all either dreams he's constantly having, or he's just kind of left planet Earth and these are visions he's constantly having. Because Reggie even says at the end, "Hey, you had a dream, you had a nightmare. Well, what do you expect? You hardly slept since the funeral last week." So we know that he keeps having these nightmares. And then when he goes upstairs, he sees the tall man in the mirror, and then he's pulled into that mirror by the lurkers. So we know this isn't over. It's constantly haunting him. So if we're only looking at this as no other movie is going to get made, I'm saying none of this, other than the deaths of Mike's parents, is real. It's just that is the man who he sees when he's experiencing the most grief he's ever experienced in his young life. And now that is the face of his torment. And he makes everything else up, comes up with these wild stories, because just like we said before, Mike seemed to know a lot about what happens on the Red Planet without seeing any information, because Mike's in control of the narrative. So if Mike believes that's what the tall man is doing to the people of the town, then that's Mike's reality, because he just said it.
So I think that all works. But I also think that viewing it as a standalone, it can all work as its reality too. Reggie, right, the actor, was only like 5'7". So if you took 3 inches off of him and he was sitting down in a chair, would Mike be savvy enough to notice that he was no longer as tall as he used to be? If the tall man ultimately really just wants Mike, and he employed another one of his servants to sit there and talk him out of this. On top of that, we've obviously made it quite apparent that the tall man can shapeshift. So why can't he shapeshift into Reggie and be the calming voice that calms Reggie, or calms Mike one last time before he goes upstairs, and tall man finally has him with his shields all the way down.
Right. That's definitely possible as well.
I do hear what you're saying, and I'm not at all suggesting that that's not a possibility, because even in the commercial for the 4K restoration, I don't know if all the commercials do it, but that's what they do in the beginning of the commercial is they say a phantasm is this, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's a mental, you know what I mean? Like they tell you phantasm means a bunch of stuff, not the least of which is visions, crazy visions. So so yeah, the whole movie could just be they gave you the whole game in the title of the movie, and the rest was just for you to say, okay, well, the reason that the tall man presents as the stereotypical Undertaker as far as his look and his behavior and his clothing is because he was the Undertaker at Mike's parents' funeral. So like you said, like this guy inadvertently is the most traumatic person alive that Mike has come in contact with, because this is the guy who threw the dirt on the boxes. And that all adds up.
Yep. And these are the techniques used or not used, depending on how you want to look at it, in this movie that I would absolutely hate in any other movie. So when I was mentioning like, is it real? Is it not real? But I feel like when you can attach meaning and motivation behind making this choice, then it's acceptable. And it's not just a trick on us. It's getting us to maybe think about, is there more to what I'm seeing than what I'm seeing? So if it's going to create a discussion, then I don't mind the technique. If it's, you know, like Deadly Friend having that nightmare, it's ridiculous. Like we don't need that. It doesn't serve a purpose. It's just a dream sequence to fool us and latch on to the popularity of other movies that have dreams. So,
such as
Nightmare on Elm Street,
which is why that nightmare sequence is in there, because Wes is just so irritated by all the nightmare stuff. There's I'll do my own nightmare thing. But yeah, in Nightmare on Elm Street, they play with the blinking, right? Somebody blinks really quickly, and you don't know if they fell asleep and they're awake in the dreamland or if they're still awake in reality. But that's the core concept of the movie is when you get into this dreamland, you're in trouble. So it makes sense to keep playing with that throughout the movie.
And we're aware we're unaware. So it then becomes like we turn into detectives looking for clues. So they've hooked us. So the technique can be used, but you have to do it well. And if that was their purpose in this, I think they did it well.
I think so.
And the other thing I wanted to mention before we move on to the deaths is that when Mike goes to get the finger in the box to take it downtown, I think they're going to go show it to the police or something.
Right.
There's a copy of a book called My Name is Legion. Now, I'm not familiar with it, so I looked it up to see what the whole thing was about. And taking what we know about the tall man in this movie, this book is either inspiration a bit for him or he's just a fan, because it's purposely put there. So the director wants you to know that he either likes this book or there's a parallel to draw from this book. It's three different stories, but they all kind of, from my understanding, are intertwined or have common themes. There's a man feared his information was going to be entered into a database, and then he did not want that, so he destroys his file before it can be entered. And because of this, he's the only person that technically has no identity in this computer database driven world, but it gives him the freedom to be whatever he wants. So, but he does good in this. He helps people. So it's sort of the opposite. This tall man does bad things. He is able to change his identity. Now, differently than the character in the book, but he is able to change his identity. And in the book, he basically uses back doors to get into the network. He's using portals to get into the world. So it's unknown if this is the true Jebediah or someone that became Jebediah, because now this man has no real identity. He's no longer who he was, and he's unlike any other living entity on this planet. Is kind of the parallel that I'm drawing here. I'm also saying that this book was a heavy influence on Futurama with Philip J. Fry, because he doesn't get his job, he doesn't get his career chip, and now Fry's free to be whatever he wants, which is a delivery boy, just like he was in his life previously. So I think there are some parallels here. I'm not that familiar with the book, so I could be off, but going based on what I was reading, I think that's what the director was going for here.
I'm always going to work under the assumption that if you see something so clearly in a shot,
yes,
that's not actively part of the shot, there's a reason. And that reason makes all the sense in the world, that this is where he pulled inspiration from, although he has said in the past that the inspiration for this movie was from a nightmare that he had as a kid.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that both things can't be true at the same time. Like, you can't, you have the nightmares, the shape of the dream, and then pulling from these sources gives you the flesh.
Yeah. Who are the characters that we're going to have in the dream, and what are they about?
Right. So all in all, what we're saying is that this was a Futurama episode.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Anyway, so we start out the movie like we were talking about. We got the lady in lavender. We got Tommy, and Tommy gets stabbed with the tiniest knife that shouldn't have killed him after one stab. But that's neither here nor there, I guess.
If you're viewing this as a first-time viewer, the knife almost seems ceremonial to me. Like, she's not killing him for the purpose that she's killing him for. This is some sort of sacrifice or ritual that needs to be completed.
100% yes, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. That was also part of the confusion between it looking ceremonial and her flashing into being the tall guy and then back into herself. It made it all feel like okay, we're watching some sort of supernatural movie. So
if he's inside of her at the time and she shifts, the hole that he is most likely in is disappearing.
I mean, depends on how much game he has. He certainly could be, sneaking in the back door. We don't know these things.
Yeah, so
or she could be savvy enough to know that that's all she has to offer, just in case something happens, and she should be well prepared for this sort of scenario.
Because I would imagine it's if the shifting is happening, he's still not going to have two holes. So the one hole is going to completely close, therefore taking a little bit of Tommy with him. So maybe Tommy did kill himself.
Next thing you know, we were just swinging baseball bats at each other.
Yeah, he didn't die of a stab wound. He died because of how he was going to live the rest of his life.
With half a
and
wiener.
Did take his
and then have to explain to everyone, I was in the cemetery with this lady, and then she became a man,
a very tall man
with bad hair, and I don't know what happened after that, but obviously I couldn't live any longer.
Yeah.
This 2-minute scene, this 5-minute scene is perplexing. They start out on fire. Right away, we get the boobies and the sex, and we know we're watching a horror movie, because only horror movies would start out in this manner. If you put on a movie and you don't know what it is and you miss the opening credits and the first thing you see is sex, you're either watching a horror movie or a very high-level suspense movie. But one way or the other, that's the only kind of movies that you're watching that will start out in that manner. And then this one goes on to have all this other, so much confusion packed into such a small little scene. It's actually an accomplishment if you really think about it.
Yeah.
The death itself is fine. It's nothing to write home about. You don't really see any blood. You know what's happening. It's very clear what's happening, except for the the changing back and forth part of it. But that's that.
Yeah, because I don't think the death isn't the focal point. The viewing of the death isn't the focal point. This is just sort of accelerating the story, letting us know people are dying. It's under mysterious circumstances. Things are weird. So that's more important than showing a lot of guts spill out, because they don't shy away from the gore later.
No.
But a lot of horror movies start out, your first death is most of the time the tamest, because you want to constantly offer more as you go.
Escalate.
So I'm always very accepting of a lackluster first kill, as long as it makes sense to do it.
So the second and third bags we only just learn about third hand,
right?
Because we're at the funeral for Tommy, and we learn that Reggie didn't want Mike coming to the funeral, because this is where they also had his parents' funeral, and that didn't go very well for Mike for some reason, because I guess he's soft or whatever. But he had some nightmares after
pussy.
Exactly, after his parents' death and funeral. We also get our time frame of it's been 2 years. So 2 years ago, his parents died, and I don't think they give us a whole lot on how they died.
No.
Just that it really affected Mike, which no matter how they died, it would have really affected Mike.
I think this is very smart the way they did this. One parent we might not think as much about. Both parents are suggesting that they died at the same time. So if they died at the same time, unless it's murder-suicide, it's usually an accident. So we just saw someone die and was attributed an incorrect cause of death. So if we know that 2 people died in this town at the same time, and we don't hear why, our brains are starting, well, I wonder what it could have been. So it's giving us just enough information to get us to ask questions about what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. That they're opening the door for all this shady town behavior.
Right. And then as we learn what happens to the bodies, then we start to question, well, did that happen to his parents? And it's a question that they ask later, and later they find that the caskets are empty.
Right. So Mike is still on his own at this point in the movie. Like, he's the only one who believes, or at least suspects, that weird things are happening. So he goes snooping at the mausoleum, and he hears noises coming from behind the door, and he starts to run, and we get our first experience with these sentinel balls, which are perhaps, and this may go back to all the way back to my original point, or my original treatise, these sentinel balls might be as, if not more, iconic than the tall man himself.
I was just going to say that. I 100% agree.
But if I do that, then I counter that with Freddy's glove is the same, is the same way. Anybody can put on
Jason's
Freddy's
mask.
glove, right?
Leatherface's chainsaw,
and his apron, yeah. So
it is an extension of him.
Yeah. So they all have a thing that that their killing machine that you recognize as being uniquely theirs. So that's not it. But anyway, this is our first time we see the Sentinel balls, and the Sentinel balls are very cool. And of all the things we can say about the sequels, the Sentinel balls continue to get cooler and cooler as the movies go on.
Yes, they do. And the Sentinel balls, they're controlled by the tall man. It's sort of like a hive mind mentality, and they carry the consciousness of the dead body.
Right.
So when they kill someone, they take their consciousness. So technically, for every lurker we see, there should be an accompanying sentinel ball, because if the body's dead, their consciousness has to be somewhere, and it's in these spears.
Right. And I think also I think this was important, but Mike kind of ducks the first ball. I think
Yes.
it was important to establish that these balls are not foolproof. Although
Right.
they're terrifying, they're not perfect, and they can be, under normal human circumstances, they can be sort of outrun or outlasted or
Right.
whatever you want to go with it.
And they can be defeated. If you shoot
Right.
them or hit them enough, you can cause some damage. And their vision is sort of like, not quite like heat vision, but everything's sort of like reddish and blackish.
Yeah.
So they don't see things how we do. It might even be like almost like they might work like on sonar, so they can hone in on where movement is happening and figure out where their victims are.
So Mike kind of eludes the ball, I guess we'll call it that, and then the caretaker captures Mike. Now, up until this point, I was of the assumption that the caretaker was in cahoots with the tall man.
Yes.
Like, why wouldn't he be? Right? Like,
because he has other helpers later. So this is not unheard of. Right.
But the caretaker has to be aware of all the things that are going on in this place. Has to be. So he's either an accomplice or blind. I don't know what the other option is besides he's helping the tall man.
And what we know in later movies is he can sort of reanimate corpses before he shrinks them down. So when people die in other movies, they're almost like zombies running around to an extent, fully aware of who they are and capable of doing what they need to do. So it's possible that this man is dead and just walking around. But the thing I would question, I can't remember in the other movies when one of those reanimated corpses, what color their blood is. But when you look at the caretaker, he looks like the tall man.
Yeah.
Same type of, stringy hair, palish. He's even got, just darkness all around his eyes. And they do a close up and they show you how dark it is. So when I see him and I see red blood come out of his arm when Mike bites him, it's a little bit of a surprise, knowing that I know later the yellow blood comes out of the tall man. We don't know this yet at this point in the movie, though. And then even when the ball gets him, it's all red. So it is. I don't know if this was intentional or an oversight. Like, should the blood have been yellow, or was the yellow blood that came in later a decision they made at that time? And they already shot this, so they just went with it.
So that is a interesting point. And I again totally agree. The caretaker looks like a smooshed down version of the tall man.
Yeah.
So is there a case to be made that was the tall man before the tall man got his hands on him and started smooshing him down to send him to the red planet? In which case, the red blood isn't necessarily out of place, depending on how he got to the position he's in. Also, the secondary problem is that, like, in the scope of what's happening, the tall man was not intending to kill the caretaker. That was just a unfortunate side effect of Mike biting his arm.
Yes.
So I don't know how that plays into his death and how his death is executed. No pun intended. But yeah, there's a lot of weirdness with the caretaker that doesn't really get resolved because he's dead.
Yeah.
And he's dead because as the Sentinel continues to pursue Mike bites the Undertaker's arm, which forces him to let go. And then the Sentinel connects with the Undertaker's head and starts to drill through. And maybe 73 gallons of blood came out of his head, I think, roughly 73, 74 gallons.
Yeah.
And this kind of sucked for me as far as I'm concerned, because you had this really cool scene where the ball connects with his head, and you know what you can tell what they did there. They filmed it in reverse, so that
they basically threw a ball,
yeah,
and then used that as the trajectory. Yeah,
right, and that's fine. You use the technology you can. You didn't need so much blood. I know it's a horror movie and all that, and this is going to be a weird sentence, but you could have used a reasonable amount of blood, and then this would have been a really cool scene. But instead it becomes like when Peter hurts his knee in Family Guy, and it's 5.5 minutes of and it goes like, okay, he got hurt. Okay, this is ridiculous. Okay, this is funny. Okay, this is ridiculous. Like, you go through all these waves when they could have just like 2 pints of blood, 3 pints of blood, and you've been like, Jesus, that thing is brutal, and you would have moved on from it.
I don't know now. Now that you say that, I can't decide, because I look at it and I go, it's a flying sphere, and then 2 sharp prongs come out, bury them in your forehead, and that's not enough. After that, a drill comes out and goes to town between your eyes, and after that, an elephant's worth of blood is pumped out of you. It keeps escalating the death. So when you see this ball, you are just going, holy fucking shit, I'm scared to death. Which, separately, Captain Phasma was named Captain Phasma after Phantasm. So when I saw her on screen, and this is no disrespect to Gwen, I can't remember her last name, Gwendolyn. She can only do what was written for her. I expected Captain Phasma to kick some fucking ass, and we never got that. So yeah, that's completely separate. But just based on, this is a ball in Phantasm, and it destroys. So anything named after it should also destroy, and it didn't.
Agreed.
But yes, it is absolutely overkill. It is 100% overkill. But I'm having fun with it.
But that's the thing, like,
yeah,
the movie's not having fun at this point. The movie's got a very serious tone, and to me, this chrome ball is flying through the sky, already scary enough. Hooks into the skull, incredibly scary now. Has a separate drill in the middle, out of my mind scary. If it had just drilled in and dropped him dead at that point, it would have still worked for me as being a very frightening tool that this man has in his arsenal. So the only thing the blood could have done was make it preposterous. And instead of just like 1 gallon of blood coming out, or even, like I said, like just it drills through and maybe he goes cross-eyed and he's dead and that's it, that would have been tremendous. Instead, we got this little carnival act of, well, we got an extra $10 in the budget. What are we going to do here? Let's buy some more high C and just pour it on the floor.
Yeah. And the amount of blood aside, I think the removal of the blood is to then allow the other fluids that are needed to go into the body.
Yeah.
So it has its purpose.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I'm coming around to kind of what you were saying, where I think it would have made more sense not to have so much in there. We do get some yellow fluid in this scene, though, as the caretaker does piss himself, as we get to see that trickle out beyond his legs, as Mike is taking shelter on the floor next to him.
Which I think would happen to the best of us if a flying sphere embedded itself in your head and started to drill your brain out. I could foresee peeing myself in that situation.
Yeah, and technically, as we know from South Park, you also shit yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now Jody, we've gotten to the point where Jody's on board with all of this, and Jody's going to go down and check things out. But at night, right?
Yes, at night.
Okay, so and I realize that there's courage and things like that involved here, but you've just recently been convinced that there are supernatural, horrifying things happening, and you'd like to get a closer look. Which, okay, more power to you.
Yeah.
You go in the middle of the night when it's pitch black, and you can't even fortify your situation because you can't see anything, or do you pop in like dawnish just so that there's some sunlight to help you out? No,
Yeah.
we're gonna go in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And so, as you would expect, he gets jumped, and he's got his guns though, so he shoots one lurker, and another lurker is attacking him also, and he's fighting everything off, and he wins the exchange, but he's an idiot, and also, are lurker deaths really deaths? Like, are they re-dead?
You see, and I think they come back to life too. It's unclear. We don't see it because later another lurker is missing from Reggie's ice cream truck. So I don't know if they come back to life or not. I forget how it plays out in everything else. Oh, but speaking of the lurkers, I finally understand how Jawas are made. But
it's all related.
Crazy thing here. The concept of the lurker was done before Jawas existed. So even though this movie did not come out until 1979, he came up with this, I believe, in 76. So he already had the lurker fleshed out, and it just so happens to look like a Jawa. Not to say that George Lucas was spying on him, because he would not even have had access to this information, because the movie, while thought of prior, didn't come out until after. So that's kind of how we have two things that look exactly alike in two different movies, without either party taking from the other. Just coincidence.
Perhaps. Or perhaps you've laid your hands on a conspiracy that needs further investigation.
Because, I mean, if you think it, like, the Jawas are on, like, a sand planet.
Right.
It's not the red world. Everybody else is able to walk around. And they're basically just and they work for themselves, though. But, they're just scavengers, just constantly doing labor. But for no one other than them.
I think you've convinced me once again that George Lucas is a thief. Yeah. I think we all knew that, especially Mr. Kurosawa knew that, but I think you're onto something here.
Yeah.
So Jody's getting away from the Morningside, and the hearse is following him. But luckily, Mike decided to hop in the car and drive, since how 12-year-olds drive and whatnot. And he meets Jody at Morningside, and Jody hops in the car, and the hearse keeps following them, and Jody's shooting at the hearse, and it crashes into a tree, and we find out that it was a lurker that was driving it, and that lurker was Tommy, as it turns out. So we learn basically that even when you're turned into a lurker, you retain all of your motor skills and all of your knowledge and all of your abilities, because Tommy was a pretty decent driver.
Yeah. And on top of it, while it's not part of their daily attire, they seem to have some sort of shoes with very large lifts on them. Because if
no
you're
one wants to be short.
If you're 3'2", your legs are swinging when you sit down on that seat. So unless there's another lurker under there pushing the gas pedal and the brake, I don't know how this guy's driving around.
Optional theory, because the lurkers live there, the hearse was already designed for them to be able to hop in and drive it with little blocks tied to the gas pedal and brake pedal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's acceptable.
So now we're ready to start planning. There's an old mine shaft in this town, which of course there is. And we're going to lure the tall man out there and kill him. We're we're plotting. We're now all on board that we have to get rid of the tall man.
Yes.
And we don't necessarily know his whole legacy, but we know he's got powers. We know he can shrink people. We know he can send people to a whole entire other planet, dimension, whatever you want to call it. We now know via Mike that he can control silver spheres with his head. We know that he can communicate telepathically or telekinetically, whichever one you want to go with. We're going to just trick him into coming over to the mines and getting pushed down. That's the best we could come up with in the spur of the moment that we had.
Because at no point in time has he ever chased them off of his home turf. Really, so he's in no rush. No one's going to believe them. So there's no reason really for him to follow.
Right. So we get to the mine and the tall man falls into the rocks and gets trapped and crushed. And again, we know he's a specter of some sort. Mike kind of has this idea too. Why do we assume that just because he's buried under some rocks, that's that? We've already cut off a finger of his, and it grew its own entire life form off of that finger. And we're just like, boulders? Yep, we did it. We did it. It's all taken care of. 150 years of torment are gone.
I didn't think of this until now. We saw him lift a casket with a dead body in it.
Yep.
One-handed. What's a boulder to him?
Right. The entire Mike's entire backslide is predicated on him having seen him pick up that casket one-handed. Whether he thought it had a body in it or not, that's 500, 600 pounds. He just scooped it up like it was textbooks and put it in the back of the truck. And now we're going to lay some rocks on his head and go, that's that. We did it. High five, everyone.
And going back to this is all in Mike's head. Once this happens and Mike looks up at Jody's at the top, and and they kind of like nod or celebrate, whatever they do. They acknowledge each other. Right after that, cut to Mike in bed. So it's not a natural transition from killing your foe.
Right.
It's now when we see it, they want us to believe it's a little bit of a time jump, but it's rather odd, given all the other clues that may be in this movie, that's going to be your choice to cut to, and there's no meaning behind it.
Unless you're back to your theory that this is all just gobbledygook in Mike's head.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's purposeful because they're trying to tell us something.
Right. So we get Mike kind of wakes up and Reggie's there, and Reggie is talking in this confusingly calm and relaxed manner, as if he didn't just go through all of this.
Right. And we had thought he was dead up until now.
Right.
Yeah.
And he tells Mike that Jody died in a car crash. Well, he's not the first person to ever tell him that. He just mentions it so that we as the viewers now know that this is a thing that happened.
Right.
And Mike doesn't seem particularly caught off guard by this, which lends more credence to your theory, because if this was the first time I was hearing that my brother died in a car accident, I'd be kind of freaked out. And I think Reggie gives it a little bit of a time frame too, like he died last week or something of that nature, which would freak me out even further. Like, hey, how did I miss the headline on that one? My brother was killed in a car accident. Also, sending that spiral even deeper with the fact that now you got Tommy, his parents, and his brother all dead in this. His reaction to that is the reaction of a person who knows that these things have happened already.
Right. And Reggie's way too calm talking about this.
Right.
For Reggie to have been that close to everyone, which it's either like the tall man can brain fog everyone and give them this, false sense of security to where they don't think anything's really wrong, or what we're witnessing is not real.
Right. We're just going through Mike's ruminations.
Yes, because even Reggie's like, it's all that tall man stuff you're talking about. That never happened. Like which gives credence to the fact that you mentioned before, is this the tall man?
Right. So that's all for the body bags that we in some concrete way know about.
Yes.
There's Sue and Sally are a little bit unclear. They definitely get attacked, but we don't know the end result of that attack. We've seen in this movie that people are able to fend off the lurkers. So
right.
Sue and Sally could have survived, or maybe they didn't survive, or maybe we don't care.
Well, the confusing part to me here is because I looked it up on WikiKills, and they count them as dead bodies.
Okay.
But when they're sort of what appears to maybe be the final showdown, where they discover that back room, and Mike goes into the Red Planet, portal, and all these things happen. It looks like storms are coming. When they're outside, Reggie just casually says, "Hey, I found the girls. Sally and Sue were safe. I led them out a window, and there were some other girls there too." And the last week, and it was mentioned so casually, I thought that was the tall man. Like you can there's an angle there because now he's saying, "Hey guys, everything's fine, don't go." But it makes it look like they're dead because they're taken away. And for me to believe this, we could have just saw Reggie discover them in the room and let them go. And then there's this really weird scene earlier in the movie where it looks like it's the girl that Mike went to see the grandmother of, or just someone that looks like her, is going to the cemetery, flowers in hand, so she's visiting someone, but she finds that door that contains the portal. When she opens it, it's bright white light, and she screams.
Right.
Is she dead? WikiKills doesn't count that one. So I'm just trying to look for other information as to what may or may not have happened, because I would have counted that. But now I don't think I can if Reggie's saying, found Sally and Sue, found other girls, let them all go. So with that other girls, I assume he's including her in this, and she's not dead either.
Which is fair. That's fair speculation. But either way, the important thing is that we don't care.
And Reggie wouldn't know to tell them that he found the girls, because Reggie wouldn't know they're missing. Reggie's ice cream truck flipped. Mike and the girls found the truck. Reggie wasn't in it. So Reggie has no idea Sally and Sue were even taken. So Reggie would have come out and said, "Hey guys, Sally and Sue are here, but they're okay." Not, "I found the girls and they're okay. Like, I let them go." Because he's saying it like we already know that they've been captured. Reggie would have no idea they were captured.
Which also, much like the opening scene of the movie, kind of plays against the idea that this is all just Mike's brain imaginations. Because why is he imagining this entire exchange for Reggie and these girls? And why did he imagine sex and death for Tommy? Yeah. So that plays away.
He could be a very confused young man, and that's why there's the morphing.
That's fine. I'm just saying, like, why is he thinking about Tommy in the cemetery at all? Like, many other sex dreams a man could have at that age. All right. So if you found yourself in the unfortunate position of being tracked down by the tall man, what's your best bet for survival?
Like in most of these movies, you just got to leave. And usually the characters aren't fortunate enough to know they're being hunted. At one point in this movie, the main three characters all know that there's trouble. So just get up and go. The tall man lives here. He's not going to follow you to Maine. So just go.
That's what they said about Jaws, too. And
Yeah.
I think we all remember in Jaws 4 when he followed him to the Caribbean.
So, and he can't even go to space. Leprechaun's going to be there.
That's right.
So the other thing that you can do here is just get one of those concussion helmets that the NFL has now, and reinforce that with some steel so the sentinel spears can't get you. That's one of your options. The other thing would be if you'd have to approach this and go, we can't kill the tall man, but we can possibly close the portal. So I would think of a way to try to destroy those two metal, basically like tuning forks on the side there, and that might stop him from being able to regenerate or become whole again. But kind of like I think we talked about this last week with the television and the video dead. Once that happens, this is going to be another Alamogordo, New Mexico deal where we're just taking this guy, we're putting him in a steel box, we're burying him under the ground, we're pouring concrete over that, and we're paving over it and putting as much weight as we possibly can on top of it.
Right.
Because he can regenerate all he wants. He's not going to be able to get out of that and do anything at that point.
Right. Full agreement. Only thing I'm going to say as an aside is in the new Madden, when you're doing the practices and the drills and the gauntlet, some of the players wear the concussion helmets, and there's just absolutely nothing funnier than that. I refuse to play the actual real game. I just only play the drills and the practices because that's the only way you can have those helmets. And it feels to me like playing NBA Jam with big head mode on, and it's
big
phenomenal.
Head, yeah.
So
nice.
If you were a tall man, would your approach change at all? Because it seems wildly successful.
It is, because nothing can stop you.
It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, even if you are stopped, you just come back later and do it all over again. And the only danger he has here is people figuring it out. And even if they figure it out, who are they going to tell?
They figure it out, then they just get killed and become more fodder for the Red Planet.
Yeah.
So that's not even a fear.
His factory is up and running.
Yeah.
Sending back what he needs to his home planet, and everything's great. So, no, you just keep on doing what you're doing. And eventually you're going to have to take your show on the road, which he does. But until then, suck the town dry.
Yeah, because there really wasn't any indication that he couldn't be doing this with old people too. So there's no indication that the lurkers, if he uses old people, the lurkers would be decrepit. So he has to have 35-year-old health. No. So just natural deaths throughout the course of time just feed into his most famous funeral home. The only thing he has to do is work on TV ads, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So the man wanted to make a movie. Don had himself a nightmare when he was a kid. He wrote it down. He carried it with him. He decided he wanted to make a film. You think he made the film he wanted to make?
Oh, yeah. Because I was even trying to figure out a way to describe this, and there was nothing I could say that was going to be any more impactful than seeing what you see in the movie and knowing why you wanted to do it. Just 100% he got what he wanted out of this.
I think I fully agree. I think considering the number of sequels and the cult following that it has, I don't think it's got a primetime following, but the cult following that it has, I think he got more than he expected out of this.
Oh, yeah.
So would you watch it again?
Yes. I know we had some discrepancies here, but this is still one of my all-time favorites. I'd watch this again right now if I didn't have anything else to do.
I think after this conversation with you, I'm back on board. I'm not fully on board like I was.
Right.
I no longer want to know why the Tall Man isn't in the pantheon of great horror characters. But I think I talked myself off a ledge on some of the other things I had issue with, and I'm back in, and I'll watch the movie again for sure.
And I do understand what you're saying. If somebody told me they didn't enjoy this movie the same way they enjoy other movies, there's no campiness to it. It hits differently. So I get that, because like, to me, peak horror in my mind is camp horror. Just enough cheesiness in it to kind of be fun, but also enough seriousness in it to be entertaining. And that's not what this movie is. So even by my definitions of what I want out of a horror movie, this movie doesn't provide it. But I'm still very, very happy with what I got.
Fair. What would you do to make it the movie you wanted? What changes do you need to make?
I wouldn't do anything, really. I thought about this, and there's nothing, because I definitely feel that everything he wrote into this movie was on purpose. Everything mentioned is so we know why things are happening, or get us to question why things are happening. And a lot of the story is not fleshed out. 100% I agree. And I don't know if we need to get into all the lore in the first movie, not knowing, they didn't know they were going to make multiples after this. But I don't know if I need that at the cost of other things. So there's really only two things I would change, and I feel like I'm just being nitpicky and even suggesting these. And we kind of touched on these already. The first one is, why does the girl walk through the door and scream? And who is she? Why is she there? Is that the same girl? I don't know. It's confusing. I know why she's there with the flowers, but I don't know why she goes into that door. It just doesn't do anything. It doesn't advance the story. It doesn't give us any insight to anything other than what's behind that door is bad. And all you need to do is show us that door, and then have the tone, like they have very, like the humming they do, or like the couple of notes they play, like that's telling us it's bad. We don't need to have the door open to know that. So maybe they were trying to over explain it. I don't think it was needed to be. I don't think we needed to see that. And then the second thing is, and we just talked about this, is we either have to kill Sue or Sally, or we never even attack them. If it appears they're because we see them, we think they're taken, we think they're killed, but then Reggie says what he says. And like I said before, if that's the case, then if they are taken, we need to see them be freed. Just this line doesn't make any sense, because Reggie in this comes off as untrustable, and knowing that we have a shapeshifter, is it the Tall Man? And while I like that the movie gets us to question things along the way, I don't think their intention is to get us to question why these things are happening at this certain time. And they've sort of trained me to question what I'm seeing. So I think this doesn't serve any point, and we kind of get a little off track as to how we've been viewing the movie throughout it. So I would alter that part. Either never attack them, or attack them and witness their release.
I think that cleans up the movie pretty nicely. I think that works to improve the movie without tampering with the movie.
Yeah.
I went in a slightly different direction, and keep in mind, I was much angrier at this movie when I came up with this. I want it to be a little bit darker. I want the kills to be a little more evil, not necessarily more gory, but more evil. And I want to make a point to have Mike either be an eyewitness or be able to have learned about each of these murders. Like, he has full knowledge of all of these things that are happening, including his parents. Movie's more or less going to play out the way you've seen it. And then at the end, you know, when Tall Man has him and he's got him by the collar and he's basically carrying him.
Right.
He carries him across the street to this barn / ballroom sort of area, and he kicks the door in and he's got him there, and his parents are standing right there, and surprise, it's his 15th birthday. And this whole thing was just to set up for his surprise 15th birthday, because, and then this is when they flash back to when he's like 14 years old, and he says some sort of wise ass comment about never being able to be caught by a surprise party, so don't even bother trying for it. And this is when they do it, and they win, and then that's the movie. We all have cake. Everybody is there. Jody's there. Reggie's there. His parents are there, and Tall Man is still just the mortuary guy from Morningside, but he's just a normal guy who they paid a couple $100 to do the last bit of torment before they gave Mike his 15th birthday.
Nice.
Yeah. Movie irritated me so much.
I do understand. I honestly do. I don't take it in any way, because, you know, most of the time we agree, or we agree to a certain extent with some slight differences.
Yeah.
But, you know, to have that happen consistently throughout time, it's not going to.
No, there's going to be some diversions at some point.
Yeah.
I just didn't think it would be on one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
I was divergent with myself, which is my own Phantasm. So that has been our bloody take on Phantasm. You can give us your commentary as you see fit. We are on all the socials. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, Blue Sky, and Twitter. It's One Bloody Take. It's all one word. We're also on TikTok, _bloody_take. Even if you don't have anything to say, come through, subscribe, like, whatever it is you have to do. We appreciate any interaction that you have whatsoever. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Substack. Search out One Bloody Take. Search it out on wherever you get your podcasts. We're there. We put out a new episode every Wednesday. You can join us next week when we discuss 1982's The Last Horror Film. I'm Paul.
And I'm Russ.
And thanks for listening to Our Bloody Take.